So at this point, we have our proton spectrum. It has been processed. And so now we will move on to setting up and collecting our carbon spectrum. So we go to the Start menu and choose Create Data Set. We do so, we get the list here. Notice the experiment number has automatically been incremented to 2. So we will select the parameter set, and if we have the Show Recommended selected, that checkbox up there, we have a short list. These are the recommended experiments. We can go to C13 CPD, that is the proton decoupled carbon-13. Click OK, and that adds that in. And then down in title, we will want to update that. We are no longer doing the proton, so we'll update that to C13. And then click OK, and it will set up our experiment for us and add that to the menu list there on the left as well. You can see in that list that it does tell us this is now a C13. We can go to Acquire. We've already locked, and we do need to tune. Specifically, we need to tune the carbon-13. The proton channel should already be tuned. We can look at acquisition parameters as well. And we have a fairly concentrated sample, so I will reduce this to 512 scans. In just a minute, we'll see the window pop up. This is the tune window for the carbon nucleus. I'm not real pleased with that, so we'll go in and touch it up manually, but first it's going to also tune the proton channel, since it will be doing proton decoupling, and it needs to tune that then. And this is the proton. It was well tuned. So at this point, I will go into to manually tune it. You'll notice in the curve it's called a wobble curve. It is centered near that red line. So the frequency is fairly well set, but I want to adjust the match so that peak goes all the way down. So the matching, you'll see me adjusting that. It goes down close to the baseline, and then I can touch up the tune to get it on that line there. And then I will save the position and exit. And the tuning is done, and since the proton was already well tuned, we'll move on. We've already shimmed on this sample, so we don't need to shim again. Instead, we'll go to ProSol and then adjust the gain and tell it to go. And we can click on go even though it's still adjusting the gain. It will just cue that command, and as soon as the gain is done, it will then begin to acquire the spectrum. We see here it's going to do 512 scans. If we click on this clock icon up here, it will tell us the estimated time for the experiment. And you can check this, it's about a half hour. You can check this when you're setting up the experiment as well. But if you look down in the bottom where it says acquisition information, it tells us we've got so far 4 of the 512 scans. And it also gives us a residual time. So at this point, we know how long we have until the experiment is done collecting. And you can see we're already getting some decent signal compared to the noise. We have that flat line. It goes down the center. That's our noise, and then the peaks going above and below that is the signal. And so it looks like we will have a spectrum with good signal to noise. We're not going to sit and watch it collect for the next 25 minutes, and so I will jump ahead on the acquisition. And so at this point, we're going to examine what we have. We can type in the command line here, TR. This is to transfer the data so that we can process it. And so we'll transfer the FIDs that we've collected, EFP to Fourier transform, and then APK to do the auto phase correction, and then we will move this down to the baseline and then scroll button on the mouse to increase the size. And we've got decent signal to noise. We could stop here, but I would like to have a little bit better, so we will continue to collect more scans, although again, I don't believe we'll go all the way up to 512. So we'll do the check again. We will transfer the data we've collected and Fourier transform it again. And we have much better signal to noise at this point. I'm happier with this, so we'll go ahead and halt the acquisition. You'll notice up in the toolbar that we have this stop sign. Notice it says that it's emergency stop. It will not save the acquisition, so we do not want to click that one. Instead, we click the halt button next to it. This will stop the acquisition, but it will also save the data that we've collected so far. And so now we have our spectrum. We can process it again, EFP and APK, or we can go to the process menu and we can just select the process. Notice the commands here. We can do a proc1D, and that will do all of the processing. Repeat it, Fourier transform, auto phasing. It also does a baseline correction. And then we can zoom in, just as we would with the proton spectrum. That shows us the region where we actually have peaks. We can go to peak picking, and then just highlight the areas. Remember, the tips of the peaks do need to be within that green box to do the peak picking. And then we can save and return, and we have our completed carbon spectrum.